All right, welcome back. This is part B. We're here with Steve. If you didn't watch part A, go watch part A. You have to get the context of what's going on in this video. So I'm going to take a second right now. I'm going to eliminate some types that I think you're probably not. And this is a tricky part actually. So let me just. Okay, I've got it narrowed down to I think 3 types. So it'll be interesting to see if the types that you were on your list, which ones of those are among my three final contestants here. So I'm gonna try to ask you questions that divide. That's like the thing about these types is they're the 3 types that are fairly similar to each other in different ways. And that means I'll have to splice really thin if I can to get to to try to get to the differences between these types. Okay, so actually there's one more. There's one that I'm just gonna put a check mark next to the one that I think you probably are, but there's 2 other types that I just want to try to sort of make sure that you're not, I guess. Oh, I'm just thinking through things you've told me already. Let's talk about planning. I guess everybody plans to a degree. Like you kind of have to. You can't just you can wing it, but you still have to plan some things. Otherwise, you'd never successfully accomplish almost anything.
Yeah.
So what does planning look like for you? To what extent? And how to what things do you plan? What things don't you plan?
I think it's easier to mention what I do plan because I try not to plan as much.
Mm-hmm.
But the things I do plan, for example, are renovations projects where I need to buy raw materials.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, now because of the lockdown, it
Mm-hmm.
kind of sucks because I can't drive to a lumber yard and
Mm-hmm.
delivery costs are just high. So I plan that in much more detail than I usually do, so I get
Mm-hmm.
my
Right. Right.
delivery corrected the first time.
Right.
Um, Aside from that, I try not to plan looks of something entirely, just because I might stumble on like a nice color or a nice combination or whatever, and I might just change my mind and try to make that work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Other things I plan, yeah, travel for example would be at least some options, not a specific schedule, but just some
Mm-hmm.
options. So every day is kind of filled, so the cost of the trip was actually worth it. That it's not just some day lying at the beach. That's really not for me. Um, yeah, mainly just to prevent a negative outcome. But otherwise, if
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure about there's really nothing that can go wrong here, then I I tend not to plan.
Okay. How do you determine what is a negative outcome?
I'm quite visual. So if something doesn't quite look up to my expectations,
Mm-hmm.
then it's a failed outcome.
I see.
But
I see.
also, just also if it's if I have a lot of waste material, for example, that's also not a disaster. But I would try to improve at least the next time I place an order, or I will try to make some system around it so it doesn't happen over and over. Because I mean, yeah, money is what it's kind of worth too much to just throw out the windows.
Right.
Even though I invest a lot more time than I probably should.
Mm-hmm.
So in a sense, I pay with my time. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Are you good with numbers?
depends on the type of number.
Mm-hmm.
If it's practical and goal oriented, then yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If it's financial, I really don't care. I'm good enough with money, but
Mm-hmm.
I cannot bother
Mm-hmm.
myself with doing a lot of administration. I
Yeah, yeah.
despise.
So you have to care about it to
Yeah,
to
yeah,
want
yeah.
to
It
do
has to
it,
be
I guess.
worthwhile.
Right.
Yeah.
Um, and okay, so what about like partying? What's your relationship with partying? Have you done it?
Oof.
Do you still do it? Obviously, it's COVID, so kind of harder. But like, what was your natural inclination to partying before COVID?
Yeah, not much.
Not much.
I did some partying when I was younger. Oof, that
Hmm.
sounds. But I prefer just like an outdoor barbecue with a close bunch of friends.
Hmm.
That could be party enough. I prefer to have some room to talk, just eating, drinking, that kind of stuff, like a really small, casual thing.
Hmm.
But like actual um, like events, that's not for me. Unless it's a
Hmm.
big metal fest, then I'm game. But like just dance or anything, no, that's not for me.
So the movement of your body has more to do with when you want to move your body, right? It's not as much like you
Yeah,
have this need to constantly move your body, but more like I want to do that, so I'm going to go move my body at that. I want to go to that metal concert, so I'm gonna go move my body at that metal concert.
yeah, yeah.
Got it.
Then I do. It's still I might still be very self-conscious about it.
Hmm.
Like I'm doing it wrong, even though
Sure.
there's really no
There's no wrong way to do
no
it, but
guidelines.
yeah, I know
Yeah,
exactly what you're talking about.
but
Yeah,
look
yeah.
at that idiot! How
Right, right, right.
it's something that haunts me. But
Okay.
yeah, I'm totally okay um, if I'm actively in the role of performing something, then I'm
Uh-huh.
fine.
Yeah.
Um, but if it's supposed to be spontaneous, then it gets kind of tricky.
Right.
I don't know why exactly. It's I kind of have to embody the role completely,
Mm-hmm.
or I don't at all. I can't do anything half-assed. That doesn't
Yeah.
work. Because then I think, is this too much? Is it not enough?
Right.
Uh,
You're trying to hit this like center line
Yes.
kind of what you want it to be, right? Or what it
Yeah.
needs to
Yeah.
be, what you know it should be. All right, I'll tell you what type I think. Well, let me tell you what cognitive functions I think you're using a lot of, and then we can talk about what types you kind of came in here thinking that you might be. Um, the two cognitive functions. Well, okay, let's just talk about it. Do you know about the like these polarities, these axes of like this or this, and then
Yeah.
like
Thinking
introverted.
versus feeling, and yeah.
There, that's the polarities of the uh, N versus S, T versus F. But I'm talking about the cognitive function polarities, which is like introverted intuition and extroverted sensing, or extroverted intuition and introverted sensing. Are you familiar with those ones?
I know what the opposing sides are, but I'm not always clear about how that actually plays out in real life.
Okay. Well, the way it's all according to this theory, right? It's all according to this. Let me just get a drink here.
Sure.
It would be like if we were discussing Plato's cave or something like that. Like if we were going to sit and discuss some theory of mind, that's all I'm really talking about. But according to this particular theory of mind, there's if you prefer this kind of intuition, then you necessarily prefer this kind of sensing. And if you prefer this kind of feeling, you then necessarily prefer this kind of thinking. That's
Makes sense. Yeah.
That's the polarity. So those are just opposites, basically. So the idea is if you prefer extroverted feeling, you must prefer introverted thinking. Or if you prefer extroverted intuition, you must prefer introverted sensing. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the way you could think of it, is that you are using either your intuition, which is no sensory input whatsoever, to perceive something, or you're using your bodily senses to perceive something. And there's some that has either it's the registry of those senses that you're relying on, or it's the literal senses that you're going through right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then as far as intuition is concerned, either you are externalizing your intuition and you're using the things around you and the ideas around you to negotiate in real time, or you're internalizing your intuition and you're relying on your sensory input to cause you to have this like really information dense idea.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so and that on the intuition side of that, it seems to me like you it just my perception. It seems to me that you use a lot of introverted intuition, and then extroverted sensing, which is the NISE axis. If I had to say like which axis I think you prefer to use, and there's a few
Mm-hmm.
different reasons I can give you for that. One of them, it's interesting. You just said it about how you almost kind of have to embody something to be able to improvise within that role, kind of. And somebody who prefers extroverted intuition doesn't have to necessarily go through that embodiment. They just breathe and live this external improvisation, kind of. That's just how they. Now, to say that you don't, that you like to, this might seem contradictory to the idea that you like to play things, not plan things out, right? It seems like if you're saying that you wouldn't be planning a lot of things out, that must mean you're doing a lot of improvising. But that's not the kind of improvising I'm talking about, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
The kind of improvising I'm talking about is the improvisation that goes into like improv comedy. It's like you have no idea what's going on. You have no idea what to expect, and you have to be funny on the spot, and it's got to come from somewhere within you, and you've got to pull the right words out of the hat at a
Yeah.
moment's
Yeah.
notice and make everybody laugh. You can only do that if you have strong extroverted intuition. Um, but somebody who prefers introverted intuition could do that if they were embodying some other if they had some imaginary embodiment in their own mind of what somebody would say in that scenario, then they can improvise that. So that's how I found it's kind of how introverted intuitives get around that problem of having to improvise. they
Huh.
imagine what would somebody do, and this is the right thing to say. So it's usually like there's one thing. There's like one thing I need to say here. What is that one thing? Where extroverted intuitives are like, I'll say this, and I'll say that, and I'll say this.
That's
Um,
interesting that you say that. Yeah, that specifically one thing here would be funny. That sounds quite familiar. Yeah.
and of course, that's not necessarily true. It's just how introverted intuitives think that it is going to be. Like I have to say that one thing. So so that, and then the extroverted sensing, I think it's not that people who prefer introverted sensing can't be artistic or aren't artistic. Of course, there are many that are and do, um, but there's a kind of special appreciation for aesthetics that extroverted sensing that the people that prefer extroverted sensing have for um, but I mean, this gets tricky because there are lots of people who prefer introverted sensing who also prefer who like aesthetics, but um, it's complicated is the way I would put it. Um, so the other two axes to contemplate would be the introverted feeling extroverted thinking axis or the extroverted feeling introverted thinking axis. Um, and initially, earlier in this call, you said a few things that made me kind of think whether you preferred introverted thinking, extroverted feeling. But as the call went on further and further, I realized I could hear a very strong introverted feeling preference from you. And that comes down to it's kind of across the board. It's sort of like your values, when you would speak up, what you would do, um, what motivates you to move your body, what motivates you to do this, to do different things. And it's your feelings, it's your values, it's the combination of what you know is right and what you feel is right, you
Hmm.
know
Hmm.
um, so I think internally you're constantly asking yourself those two questions: do I know what's right, and do I feel like this is right? And then you're using that to to then act and to do things in the world. Um, that's what I'm getting. That's what I'm interpreting back what what you just told me, I guess is the way I would put it. And so you can stop me at any point and be like, "You're not understanding me right," if I'm drawing the wrong conclusions.
Yeah, I
Um,
think you're drawing a very right conclusion. I came to the same conclusion, so
okay, okay. So you can imagine which types then I initially thought you might be, because I could sense this like introverted intuition, introverted feeling kind of loop, NIFI loop. So of course my mind immediately went to like INTJ. I was like, thought maybe you're an INTJ. Um, and I think outwardly you present like some INTJs that I know. But as I listen to you talk more, um, as you kind of explain yourself more and your thought processes more, um, it started to become more apparent to me, especially with some of the things you said early on, as they kind of clicked into place with a few things you said later on. It sort of confirmed my suspicion that you might be an ISFP. And so that was the type that has held pretty firmly in my mind through the latter half of the early call, the first half of this call, and then as we've gotten further in through here. And the only other two types that I thought maybe possibly that I really wanted to disqualify or tried to disqualify were ISTP and ESFP. And that had to do with the ISTP had to do with the sensation that, like, well, some of the things you said could be things that ISTP would say, or the way that an ISTP would think. But,
because of the introverted thinking.
well, yeah, I mean, basically, like, I think that people who prefer introverted feeling, they know pretty quickly how they feel about things. But I've noticed
Hmm.
ISTPs are kind of just cool with most things anyways, so it's sort of like it doesn't really matter all that much. Like there's not a whole lot of complicated stuff to work through anyways, so maybe it doesn't really matter. So that's kind of why I was like, oh, maybe. But there's just too many, and also sort of like the way you described the meticulousness of how you are gathering your materials and to work with them and things like that. But honestly, that could be very much an ISFP thing too. It just depends on the person, honestly. Um, but I would say um, there's not a whole lot. I don't hear a lot of the different things I think I would hear if you were preferring to use introverted thinking a lot. I think I would be hearing a lot of different. Like your interest in philosophy is interesting, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you prefer introverted thinking. It just means that you're interested in philosophy and that's what you enjoy, and that's what you want to think about.
Yeah.
So that does anyone, any type can do that. And so that was one thing that like made me wonder if you were introverted thinker, prefer introverted thinking, but uh, but philosophy is attractive to all types for different reasons. Um, and
Yeah,
then yeah, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I've noticed that throws people off quite often. Um, the thing is, I do need some kind of reason, assuming that Fi
Mhm.
is indeed a very strong function for me.
Mhm.
Um, I'm not okay with just blindly believing something just because I believe it.
Right.
A couple of years ago, I kind of did a full deconstruction of my own values.
Mhm.
So I really dove quite deep into all this.
Mhm.
So that might explain why you're seeing, also why my interest in philosophy. I'm not interested in it just for the sake of it,
Mhm.
but if it sounds helpful or a good foundation
Mhm.
to start building off of,
Mhm.
yeah, then I'm interested because it,
Mhm.
it aligns with my values quite well. So then I have a
Mhm.
starting point to branch out.
Mhm.
That's yeah, but I've noticed
Yeah.
that people are like, why? Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's very interesting. So what did you come into this call, um, thinking about, and how far afield am I from the observations that you made of yourself?
I actually think you're spot on. Yeah, I came to the same conclusion. Actually, I think a day after I scheduled the appointment,
Mhm.
someone else sent me a PDF document with his own research,
Mhm.
which clarified the functions to me quite a bit.
Mhm.
And so I started digging because at that time I had mistyped myself probably as a INTJ because I was so
Mhm.
focused on philosophy and thinking and all the
Right. Right.
systems and
Right.
all that stuff.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, but
If you
I
get too tripped up in stereotypes, then
yeah, that too.
you can misattribute certain behavior.
Yeah, yeah. And it's the things, probably the blind spots because I
Mhm.
really, you don't think about the stuff you basically do for fun during a weekend,
Mhm.
while that's actually your most preferred function to use.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I just, I like this and I'm
Mhm.
going to work with my hands, which I love. So it kind of goes to the back of your mind while it's your your most preferred function. So that probably tripped me up,
Mhm.
mistyping me as INTJ,
Mhm. Mhm.
while I probably well might be ISFP, which is also the conclusion I came to.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay. Open and shut case. No, but does it help to hear these thoughts from somebody who doesn't know you? Just
Definitely,
hearing you.
definitely, yeah. Uh, the typing itself is not really that important to me
Mhm.
because I mean it's yeah. There's a lot of stereotypes and everyone
Right.
has their own kind of uh, way to color these functions in.
Mhm.
Life experience is a big thing. Culture is a big thing.
Mhm.
Um, but it does help to have some kind of starting point. I've been saying this starting point so often this call,
Mhm.
uh, but just to have something, a better focus where to invest my time. Like
Mhm. Mhm.
I pretty much do the developer stuff because yeah, I just focused on that since I was young because that's what I studied for. That's what I've been doing,
Mhm.
and I still enjoy that. But I noticed that it's more of a chore to keep enjoying it
Mhm.
if people are making it difficult. And it's much easier for me to just work on a side project myself,
Mhm.
be it steel fabrication or painting or
Mhm.
renovating or whatever.
Yeah.
If I have kind of setback, it still feels more worthwhile doing
Mhm.
than going to work and yeah, just being up against a bunch of idiots who meddle with my job. And yeah, it's
Right.
just, it's basically the same thing, but it feels completely different.
Right. And if you know the history of the MBTI, that's really what a lot of it was about in the early days of it was to understand, hey, what kinds of jobs are different types going to excel at or enjoy or whatever. Now
Yeah,
the problem is nowadays it can be used in discriminatory ways. But the spirit of the idea of typology, at least if used in its sort of best case and ideal scenario, is that it can help you sort of try to figure out where do I have the least amount of friction to get the most enjoyment out of my life, either not just your hobbies but also the kind of work that you're doing and like um, yeah, just sort of where you'll excel. I think everybody wants to be a useful tool of some kind,
Exactly. Yeah.
successful or whatever. You pick your reasons. You want to be rich, or you want to be happy, you want to be famous, whatever. But you have some metric of success in your mind uh, that you are looking to. So taking inventory of your own skills is important
Yeah, and
to that.
also just to prevent fighting an uphill battle.
Hmm.
That might be a good enough reason as well.
Okay. Well, so I always open it. We're getting close to the end here, so I always like to open it up to ask if you want to ask any questions to me, or if you have any follow-up questions to what we just talked about. The floor is yours to lead the conversation in whatever direction you want. Is that a tall? I hope that's not too tall of an order.
No, 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 no.
And take your time. Don't feel like I mean, there's nothing going on right now.
I'm kind of interested in what if this is your side project, what the actual side project is that you're working
What is
on.
my side project? Um, I don't talk about it on the channel. I don't think I've even brought it up on the channel yet.
You don't have to if it's too personal or not related. I mean,
Well,
it's
no,
just
I guess I'm the type that I almost want to be able to just show up and tell everybody, like, here's this thing I've been working on for 2.5 years or whatever, like, ta-da, and then it's just like, oh, there it is. It's harder for me to talk about something that's not finished yet, but because the other thing is, if I tell you what it is, it's going to open up a whole Pandora's box, and we're going to probably want to talk about it for half an hour. I mean, I'll probably, whatever. So you decide. I know it's late your time, so if I tell you what it is, you're going to have follow-up questions. I just know you are. But okay.
it's totally fine for me. I mean, it's 10 past midnight right now, but I've had later calls.
Okay.
If it's interesting, then I'm more than willing to
All
have a
right.
later night. I really don't mind.
All right, so for those who are watching the video, if you're watching for the typology video, you whatever, you'll probably see that there's a lot more time on this video to go. Um, if all you cared about was the typology video, then we're probably close to the end of that. But if you want to hear me talk about my own project, then that's what I'll do. So if you're interested, there's probably other people who are interested in knowing. Um, so in the fall of 2018, I started to contemplate a very difficult problem. It's the most difficult problem I could think of. And what's the greatest good that you could possibly do for humanity? Is the and the question I asked myself, uh, which I which the reason I was willing to ask myself this question was because I just said to myself, there's no consequence here. Nobody knows you're thinking about this. You can just think about whatever you want to think about. Nobody's going to stop you, even if it's ridiculous. So I started thinking about the question, is it possible to solve poverty? Is that possible? Could an idea solve poverty? One idea. Um, and because I've been in poverty before, I've been homeless before. I was born in Gary, Indiana. Didn't have a lot of money. I'm doing well now. I'm successful now, but uh, in my late 20s, I was homeless for a while with a wife and a kid. So I've been through the ringer, and now that I've kind of solved a lot of my own problems, I started thinking about this question, and it's one of those questions that just doesn't get away from you once you start thinking about it. Um, so uh, so I remember I spent time walking to and from a job, uh, thinking about this question and thinking about possible solutions for it. And I guess I'll jump past a bunch of different things and just say that what I conceived of, what I found, what I came up with, was this idea of a game that pays you to play it, that anybody can play, any human being can play.
Hmm.
And what the way the game works is they're real-time swarm events. Think of it like a raid in an MMO, but you're just on your mobile device. And it's group intelligence. So you get 15 people together, a question comes up, the group provides an answer, and then there's a feedback loop where they see the anonymous answers that were provided, and then they can interact with them, upvote them, downvote them, add emojis, and then there's another feedback loop where they pick a final answer. So by the time you get through this process, the best answer has come out of the group. And yes, 14 of those answers got discarded, but the point is there's a very good answer at the end of it. And so I designed a system where people or organizations or whatever can ask questions, provide a monetary incentive with the question that goes to this group of people who answer the question, and then the money gets distributed among those people. And so this will allow for anyone who, no matter what, anyone across the board, Homo sapien, can install this game and can play this game, and eventually will be able to earn money without having to get a job, without having to, and basically replace all of the jobs that have been lost and will be lost by automation. Because that's really what the biggest motivator for me was, looking at the numbers and seeing that like a third of the jobs are going to be automated by 2030. So I said, how is this not going to result in collapse? I don't know. Like what happens when you remove a third of the people from the workforce? So so that's been my mission for the past 2.5 years. We're getting close to having a product that I can start to show to friends and family, and then soon after that we'll be able to do early access. But yeah, in a world of monetization models that milk users for their money, this is it flips it on its head. It monetizes organizations and those who have lots of money, who want lots of information, and has them give that money to the people that are actually providing the data. So when you join the system, you're agreeing to answer these questions and participate, but you are reaping the benefits of that. There's no ads, there's nothing behind the scenes that's that's sort of like that adage, if you don't, how does the saying go? If you're not paying for the product, you are the product,
Yeah.
This is more like socialism. It's more like the workers own the means of production, sort of thing. So that's what I've been working on for 2.5 years, and I will probably be creating a community on there. The groups are called hives. I call them hives, kind of like subreddits. So you could join an MBTI hive, and then you could get together with other people in that hive, and you don't know who they are. You just know they're in this hive. You get into these real-time swarms with them. They're about 2 minutes long. You get experience points when you're done. You get a currency for completing it. And then if you have questions that can't be answered by Google or can't be answered by an AI, but need specialized group human intelligence, you can ask that question, and if you want it faster, you can put a boost with it, and you'll get the answer faster. That the boost is what pays people to participate. So that's what I've been working on.
That's an interesting and very ambitious project. Have you had a devil's advocate working against you?
Many.
Oh, many.
Including myself. But yes, let's hear your devil's advocate arguments, and let me hear them.
Yeah. Two
Sure.
main points. Is there an incentive for answering correctly?
There is an experience points incentive. There is no financial incentive. So you will be able to. There actually is a tangential financial expense. Let's put it this way. The way that I'm going to design it, this is getting into this is very new functionality that I have to write a paper kind of about it. I've written multiple papers to get to describe all this, how this all works. Your experience points, you will have a level per hive. So if you join the cryptocurrency hive or whatever, you'll be able to go up to level 50 in level in that hive. You'll also have a general level, which is like your entire level in the whole system. But the cryptocurrency level, you'll get it every time you swarm. You'll get experience points both at the hive level and at the general level. The higher you go in your level in the cryptocurrency hive, you will hit a level cap. But if enough people hit that level cap, then the next level cap happens. So what you're trying to do is get enough experience points and then get enough other people also to get enough experience points so that the level cap will get increased so that you
Oh,
can
that's a
go
good
up to the next level cap. So there is an incentive to get the right answer because you will get more experience points, which helps you get to the level cap faster. But I also was very important to me to not disincentivize people from answering the wrong answer. Because what's surprising that I found is that with this swarm intelligence, the human swarm intelligence, the wrong answers actually help the swarm give a better answer, which is really strange. But what happens is it creates a spectrum of answers. So there's this really bad answer over here, and then there's these other answers, and then you see there's a really good answer over here. And what happens is the group as a whole can see that spectrum, and that helps them pick the best answer. So all these other people, these 14 other people in the swarm or whatever, that have provided the wrong answer, actually did help provide the right answer. It's group intelligence. So
Yeah.
they all participated. They all helped get to the right answer. Therefore, they all deserve an equal cut of the reward, the financial reward.
I'd be very interested to see this in practice. Because
You will be able to soon. It has taken
yeah,
me
I
two and a
mean,
half years to get there.
that's amazing.
And designing hundreds and hundreds of screens to get there. And lots of
Yeah,
development.
you were a UX designer, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that is very interesting. Yeah, the thing is, I do have some socialist ideas, but I think I lean more to the capitalist side.
Mm-hmm.
Though not the evil corporation capitalism, that doesn't work either. But
Sure.
I'll be very interested to see where your system will have its natural course.
I
'Cause
think
it's
if you're okay with if you're a fan of capitalistic markets, if you like the idea of markets, each of these hives will have their own market
yeah, yeah,
of buy and sell demand for wisdom, basically. And if more demand hits that market, then the cost to boost to get to get to the front of the line basically will continue to rise. And that's sort of a feature of capitalism that people like. Um, so we do have that, but the real focus for me is to make these markets valuable enough that the people who participate in them, who are actually providing the answers, are making sufficient enough income to replace the income that they will lose from automation or whatever reason. Really wanting to give all the whenever I see that there's like 10,000 people got laid off at this job or whatever, I'm like, think of all that wasted knowledge that those people have. There's so much intelligence, everything from sports knowledge to emotional things and support to math to science to religion and everything in between. If you can tap into that and monetize that and then give them the money that's monetized, then you can solve the employment problem. So my
hmm.
hope is to be the biggest employer in the world eventually. I really want to do things like shut Walmart out, like hire all the Walmart employees for more money than they're making at Walmart to come play my dumb little game, you know. It'd be great. It'd be great to put Walmart out of business. So yeah, there's things like that that I'm looking at as potential goals, you know.
That's cool, man. That's cool.
And then there's just typology gifts, which is just my just personality type thing. But the only reason I keep this going is like I'm not as interested in typology as I used to be, you know. But I do like the opportunity to meet new people. I think that's interesting. I do like being able to pick people's brains and learn more about people. there's always more to learn, even if you're just like, don't take typology that seriously. You can still meet people and still learn interesting things. And yeah, it's a platform, I mean, the more people that subscribe to this channel, I do, I can create communities in my swarm intelligence software. And imagine a day where you can participate in a typology gifts community and make money. Imagine making money being part of this community. It's hard to believe. It's hard to think about that. Like, what it would be like if I could go to Reddit and join a community and make money. Like, that's a really weird idea. But that's what I'm trying to do, is change the
Yeah.
way, like, no longer does joining a community mean just I'm going to contribute and that's it. It's going to be I'm going to contribute and I'm actually going to get paid to contribute. And I'm going to have the same kind of fun that I did in any other community that I've ever participated in.
Yeah, I wonder if you're not going to get some kind of infighting in the communities themselves, because if you're having to split the reward, so to say, between 100 people, of which maybe 20 are just
Right now
staying bottom level.
right now there's only a swarm cap of 15 people.
Oh, okay, that's more manageable. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Then
So,
you probably won't have the issue
and
because it's quite visible.
also, you
Yeah.
don't. Also, this to mention about the system I'm building is very unique compared to other social networking sites. There are no visible usernames. There are no walls. There's no individual user-to-user messaging. It's entirely anonymous. You have avatars. You will have a custom avatar. But other than that, you can't see usernames at any point. No point in the entire system can you see usernames. So there's no real way to these are other humans, like you can tell, but there's no way to interact with them outside of the swarm idea. If you want to interact with this system, you have to swarm. That's it. Or ask a
Yeah.
question. You can ask a question, you can swarm. Those are the two things you can do. And I think most people will swarm probably because they'll want to make money. So, but I mean, even before we're at the point where people can make money, they'll make what I'm calling honeycomb wax, which is the digital money, and eventually you'll be able to buy, all the, they say glamour is the true end game, right? So you'll be able to buy the customizations for your avatar that you want and the things that make the game fun, or that just like intrinsically fun. You got to give players a goal, like that's the thing I've been looking at is like not only do I want to make a game that pays you to play it, but I also want to make something like an MMO that can have this like super long longevity where there's like lots of things to do and whatever, and it's not designed to milk you for your money. It's designed to just keep you having fun and like keep you having goals to set, so that while you're making money, it's not an absolute like I want to kill myself kind of drudgery, but it's actually like,
Yeah.
well, yeah, I mean, and also, since you're using the knowledge you already have, hopefully people will feel like they're able to not feel like that it's a disservice to them as a human, or disrespectful to them as a human, or whatever. Having the human integrity to be able to say, I'm a computer engineer, I want to join hives that have to do with engineering, that utilize the knowledge, the unique knowledge that I bring to the table, and I want to make money doing that. And then even if their job has been outmoded, there's still lots of questions being asked to those particular communities. They can still feel like their knowledge is being used to some degree to other people who benefit. And that's my goal, is to help all these people not only make an income, but also feel like all this knowledge that they gained isn't just getting completely thrown away.
Yeah, for that reason alone, I think it's very valuable to make sure that we actually have knowledge, because automation is great in a sense, but you still need to have the knowledge of just the
Right.
internal workings of the underlying systems, because otherwise,
Right.
yeah,
Well,
we make so many different abstractions.
I mean,
Eventually, you'll have no one to make sense of it.
Right, exactly. And automation and machine learning is great for problems we've already solved.
Hmm.
But as soon as we encounter some unique scenario, you need organic general intelligence. So I mean, and human swarm intelligence. If you're you may or may not be familiar with the term the wisdom of crowds. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
No, no, no.
It's a discovery that was made about 100 years ago. So the wisdom of crowds is not a new concept, but you kind of see it in effect in sites like Predictit and other websites that use markets to make predictions.
Hmm. Can
Like
see that. Yeah.
who will win this presidency or what will happen on April 1st, and they use markets, and you bid on yes or no. And so that's a good example, I think, of the wisdom of crowds, like in action. um, Versus the opposite, which is the the insanity of crowds or something, a madness of crowds, which is like a riot. you know um, there's less intelligence going into that. It's more like an emotional thing.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
so that's really what I'm the effect that I'm leveraging here is I came up with an algorithm for how to get the wisdom of crowds effect to happen, but in a game. So yeah, that's my project.
It's a nice project to have. Definitely. It's a good goal to have as well. To do
Thanks.
something for the greater good.
Yeah, I mean, even if I'm only a fraction of a percent successful in what I'm doing, like, it's still going to be very successful.
Hmm.
If you shoot for billions of lives changed, and you only change millions,
Yeah.
okay, I'll be okay with that. I could sleep at night. But yeah, anyways, any other questions? Any other thoughts? I know that people that have stuck it out for this long are going to probably leave me some questions in the comments. I don't know, but if it's fine, leave questions. But yeah, you have any other thoughts or questions?
I'm good though. I'm good.
Okay, it's late your
I
time.
no, but aside from that, I could also just start a new topic and we could probably talk for hours. You're a very
Probably.
interesting guy to listen to, and
Thanks.
I mean, but let's keep that for some other time, maybe. I
Sure.
mean,
Yeah, I've thought about having a part C with people and just asking them to come back in a few weeks and do another quick video, half hour, 45 minutes, and just, hey, what did you think? How have things changed since we talked and stuff like that. So maybe I'll get in touch at some point and ask you to
sure, yeah,
ask you to come
sure,
back for part C.
sounds good.
All right, Steven, thanks so much for your time, and thanks everyone for watching. Appreciate your time as well. Hope you enjoyed. And yeah, feel free, Stephen, to leave a comment in the comments if you have any further thoughts. And a day later or 2 days later, you're like, oh, I should have said this or whatever. Feel free to leave a comment, and then we can take a look at it.
Sure will. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Take care, Stephen. Take care. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.